Hello, everyone, and welcome back to my channel. And Happy New Year to you. On LinkedIn recently, I saw this hashtag New Year, New Job. And I have my friend Grace with me, who has been on search committees and has been a hiring manager herself. And I just brought her on here because she's also a chat GPT and AI generative AI guru. And so she will be sharing with us some of her things she's seen in the past, that makes a candidate strong and gets them hired, as well as how we can use generative AI for many things in this job application process. So we're going to be releasing a series of videos around this acing your interview topic, and we're just going to start right now with things, three things, right, Grace?
Yes.
That that the hiring manager or search committee discuss when a candidate leaves the room. So over to you, Grace. Let's start there.
Hello, everyone. And Claire, thank you so much for having me. Happy New Year. I'm really thrilled to be here. So, as Claire said, I'll be talking about three things that myself and my fellow search committee members have often talked about or mentioned after a candidate leaves the room. And these things, are sort of separate from the qualifications, from the CV, from the cover
Absolutely.
letter, but they
Absolutely.
also make a really big impression on a search committee and often
Absolutely.
can be the deciding factor if we have
Absolutely.
three or four candidates with really similar qualifications and levels of appropriateness for the position.
Absolutely.
So
Can
the first
yes.
the first thing that
Mhm.
we might remark on is the level of enthusiasm for the role
Absolutely. Hmm.
and for the interview itself. A candidate that shows real, genuine warmth and enthusiasm and excitement about the role they're interviewing for always makes a much more favorable impression than someone who seems indifferent
Yeah.
or cynical or not as excited about the role as we would hope. you
Right.
know uh, uh, Roles are not perfect, companies are not perfect, but it always is. We always like it when a candidate comes in optimistically
Hmm.
and is looking to add value to our institution, but
Hmm.
also feels that the institution will add value to them. So
That
we
is
do take
amazing.
note of those things. So don't be afraid to hide your enthusiasm. And I do understand that nervousness is a big deal, for
Yes.
some people, especially if you're new to interviewing or you've been interviewing in a certain field for a long time and it hasn't been working out. Some of us are neurodivergent, and that might lead to some issues when it comes, making eye contact and talking about something. But you can show enthusiasm through your face and body language. You can show enthusiasm through your words. And if you're not, a very extrovert, talking with your hands type of person, you can always tell them exactly why you're excited about the job. Like, prepare that answer and be as eloquent about it as possible. Be as specific as possible. If you're working with a specific type of technology that you're excited about, that this company uses, talk about that.
So good.
If the company has a CEO or a project manager, look up their projects, see what work that they've done in the past and
Hmm.
mention it with enthusiasm. I loved what you did here. I love the way this project was managed, and I would love
Hmm.
to bring my expertise to
Hmm.
something like this. And
So good.
that sort of segues into the second thing, which is to research the company and research the team that you potentially might be joining thoroughly.
Right.
I will say that with a caveat. Everything that is publicly available, we don't want to veer into stalker territory here, but a simple Google before entering an interview and taking note of the company vision, the company mission, and also the job description, knowing the job
Yes.
description in and out. These
Yeah,
are all things that I take note of as a hiring manager or as a
right.
member of a search committee.
That's
If
good.
you understand why the institution is there, where it's going, what its goals are, it really, really helps in showing that first point, your enthusiasm for the role, and in showing that you've invested time in
Mm,
researching the institution, the company. It's showing not only that you want to be there, but you will tailor your work to what they have in mind and what their vision and mission is.
absolutely. I think that point is very important. But I also find that people, like you said, you people who have been interviewing for several roles get jaded, and sometimes they don't want to put in too much effort, just in case they get disappointed. Because the more invested you are, the harder the disappointment. So, talk to us a little bit about managing that potential disappointment and still investing your all for each interview.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, well, Claire, this is where, and we might talk a little bit about this in a future episode, but this is where modern technology I find has really helped. People look at generative AI tools such as ChatGPT as a good way to generate content, but it also is really good at analyzing content.
Hmm.
So I've taught classes for career help where we've taken a job description, we've taken a mission and a vision, of an institution, dropped them into the chat box and asked us to analyze all that data in a few simple sentences that we could review and use to prepare for an interview.
So
And it does a
good.
really good job
So
at
good.
doing that. And it's a very good use of generative AI.
Very good.
If the company is large enough, that its profile is something that the large language model already knows about, you can even prompt it to give you some points to research or to give you some points to summarize. So there's a ton that can be done with these free tools that are literally right at our fingertips. So I'm excited to discuss that later on when we dedicate an episode to it.
Absolutely. That's amazing. And you had a third point for us.
Yes. Yes. My third point is to display your curiosity, ask
So
questions.
good. So
It's
good.
all tied back to that enthusiasm.
Hmm.
Um, I can remember more than once where we hired someone who was less experienced than we would have liked initially, but their enthusiasm, the research they've done about the company, and just the intelligence and questions that they asked and that they used just to show interest in the role impressed us enough that we decided we wanted to take them on and maybe give them a little more training than we had bargained for initially. Almost every
Absolutely.
good interviewer will give you a prompt and say, do you have any questions for
So
us?
good.
Don't be shy, ask those questions. Come with the
Absolutely.
questions written down. I know for a fact that when I interview, if I'm asked that question and I don't have anything in mind, I blank instantly. So I always come with two or three questions written down. Asking questions might take you in directions that, you know, they didn't think of, when they prepared for the initial interview. Asking questions might clarify things that you weren't sure about. And I also want to emphasize that any good company, any good institution is trying to court you just as much as you are trying to be hired by them. right? They're trying
Right.
to, a good company or a good institution should be trying to put their best face forward and trying to show themselves as a place where you would be enthusiastic about working. So they should be as enthusiastic about talking to you as you are talking to them. I know
Absolutely.
that doesn't always happen, but asking those questions, those clarifying questions, and using them to show how you might add value, to areas that may have not even necessarily been very explicit on the job description is always a great opportunity. Never hurts to ask questions.
So good, so good. And I know that on both sides of the fence, as someone interviewing for a role myself, I know that those questions have been gold in landing me really great jobs because just the questions I ask, and you see the interviewers' eyes light up and like they're enthusiastic, they're leaning into it because of those questions. And so I know that the differentiator, a key differentiator between you and your other people interviewing is the quality and of questions you ask. Because I've been also on the other fence as the hiring manager, and people typically just sit down and say, ask me anything, but you're missing out on a great, great opportunity to showcase yourself, to showcase your research, to showcase what you bring to the table, right? By asking those questions and showcasing enthusiasm and passion for the role too, So it's really important to prepare and go into every interview as a fresh opportunity instead of taking and carrying the disappointment from a previous interview that didn't go well into the next one. Um,
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Any closing thoughts on this
Well,
idea?
something you just said about the disappointment of previous interviews just leads me to remember when I was interviewing, when I was trying to break into my field. I interviewed quite a bit before I got my position. And one thing that I learned to do was to learn from my mistakes in the previous interviews. When I would get home, I would write down as much as I could remember the questions I was asked, what I felt I answered well, what I felt I didn't answer well. And in some cases, if I was unsuccessful, I would reach out to the recruiter and ask for feedback on how I
Absolutely.
interviewed. I didn't
Absolutely.
always get feedback. I didn't even always get a reply, but the couple of people who did answer me gave me invaluable advice, and things that I applied to my next interviews, in which I was more successful.
That's so good, Grace. And I think we'll have a session just dedicated to talking about field interviews and what to do, about that. So thank you guys for tuning in, and we'll be right back with more tips for acing your interviews in the next episode. So see you next time. Cheers.